Let's look at China. I mentioned the managed slowdown. This is Chinese economic growth since 2005. And if you look really closely at the line, you can see that it went up a tiny bit last year to 6.9%. It's going to go down this year. And the best guess is that it's going to go down to 6.5%. And, look, all of us in developed economies would be deliriously happy to have economic growth of 6.5%. For China, that will be the slowest economic growth since 1990, 28 years. But they're doing it deliberately and for good reasons. President Xi has said he is willing to accept slower growth for higher quality growth. He knows that the reason they've been able to maintain such high growth has been through policies that were not prudent, and now they've got to face reality and solve these problems. And so this is what they call the critical battles. They are forecasting 3 years of what they call critical battles. One of them is pollution. I mentioned it earlier. This is a significant, really serious problem because it is conceivable. I mean, we think of China as this very well-regulated, very tightly controlled society, which it is. But if there's going to be a risk of revolt, of insurrection or something like that, it could very well come from this. When parents believe that their children are not safe, that they could be poisoned by the environment, that is a force stronger than almost any other. And they know that they have encouraged growth by permitting pollution. They're going to have to fix the pollution now, and that probably will slow down growth. It may slow down industrial production because a lot of the pollution comes from industrial activity, but they have to do it. Another critical battle is poverty. They still have hundreds of millions of people, largely in rural areas, that are poor. And as they see what's happening in the rest of the country and in the world around them, they're not satisfied with being poor. They're not going to put up with it. And the country has to do a better job of starting to move them too into the middle class. Finance is the third critical battle, and this is one of the empty cities that exist around China. Finance and financial stability may be the largest challenge or the most important challenge for their economy. They know they have an unstable economy because it has way too much debt. And a lot of the debt was incurred in building these things, and these things were built in part to maintain or to achieve a forecast economic growth rate. They have to get this under control, and so we saw the government take over the Anbang insurance company last week because it was a key source of financial instability. This is important for a lot of other businesses because it could mean a slowdown in construction. And so many other industries are associated with fast construction in China. Okay. Risks, trade war, we've already talked about it. That's steel pipe in China. Bad news for China, bad news for the rest of the world, America in particular, if it happens. One other thing on China, look at the long term. They look at the long term. That's how they think of the world. After all, this is a country with a continuous 4,000-year history. They think in the longer term. The One Belt, One Road project will be the largest infrastructure project in all of history, and assuming it succeeds in what it means to do, it will be extremely important in extending China's influence around the world. It'll take years to do, many years. That's no problem. We should not forget about this as we look at the more immediate issues.